What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over the process of creating a digital animation from creating the avatar in DAZ3D, modeling it and animating in Blender and Mixamo, bringing it into CLO3D and then back into Blender to texturize it. This is kind of like a full breakdown. I hope you guys do enjoy this video. I might break it up into different parts, but hopefully I can keep it short and sweet. Everything in this video will be available on my Shopify store, so make sure to download that. I'm going to have everything up for $6. If you don't have the cash, it's all good. Just follow along and you should be able to make it on your own time and without spending extra money. Let's get into the video. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is download DAZ3D. It's a free software to create avatars. The next thing you want to do is download Blender. This is also a 3D software. It's very versatile. You can do pretty much anything in it. And then we're going to need DAZ to Blender Bridge. If you're not sure how to install this, there is several tutorials on YouTube that you can check out. I'll drop the links for all of these. What you're going to need if you don't have it yet is CLO3D. You can get a free version of it for a month, I think it is. And then after that you have to pay. We're also going to need these artifact shoes. These are free to download. This is going to be just to make the animation look a little bit better and to create some characteristics of our avatar. And then I'm going to be using VMod for texturing. It's a great platform. I use it all the time with all my models. You do have to pay for it, but I will be including a free texture in my project file if you want to download it off my store. Once you've downloaded DAZ3D and installed everything, we're going to go to Figures, Genesis 8, and I've created my own face in FaceGen, so I'm going to be adding that to this avatar. So we can go to Shaping, Head, and then we're just going to slide this, and you'll see it's, well, yeah, as you can see, it starts to look like me. You don't have to obviously do this process, but if you want to use your own, you can create in FaceGen. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go File, and we're going to say Send to DAZ to Blender. This is going to create our model for us, which we can import into Blender. Once it is done, we can open up Blender, and if you've installed DAZ to Blender correctly, add it in Preferences, you'll see a little tab on the top right that says DAZ to Blender, and we're just going to say Import New Genesis. And just like that, you can see has all the characteristics that we use in DAZ3D. Now the only thing for this import that we're going to need is this Genesis 8 mail. So we can right click on this and say unlink, and it's going to remove all the things that we don't need. From there, we're going to click on the Genesis 8 mail shape and drag and drop it into collections. If you want the eyelashes, you can keep those, but I'm just going to lose those. So let's right click on DAZ root and hit delete. Once we're happy with that, the next thing we're going to do is import our shoes. You will see that they are scaled crazy, so you can just press S on your keyboard 0.01 and it should scale it down correctly. Let's open up a left side view and then let's begin rotating and positioning our shoe. To do this, we're going to press R on our keyboard and Y and hit -90, and then we're gonna just fiddle around until we're happy with the positioning. You can use R for rotation on the X, Y, and Z axes, and then you can use G on the X, Y, Z axes to move it around. So just adjust it until you're happy. Just so you can see the objects a little bit better, we can go up to the middle here and say random, and you'll now see different colors, which just helps you see everything a bit better. Make sure you have selected the second little circle. Okay, let's carry on adjusting. You can see it's sticking out a little bit, so I'm just going to scale it. And I think I'm happy with that. Looks good. From here, we're going to go up to Object and say Apply All Transforms. This is going to reset your location rotation to 0 and your scale to 1 on all axes. From here, we can go to the Modifier tab, say Add Modifier, and we're going to say Mirror. It should automatically mirror to your object or your avatar. If not, just use the eyedrop tool and click on the avatar. You should be good. Now we can hit Apply, and the modifier should be applied. Next thing we're going to do is click on both the avatar and the shoes, and we can say File, Export, FBX. The reason we're doing FBX is because it keeps all the material properties If you do OBJ and you bring it into Mixamo, it's not going to work so well. So let's hit select objects, choose your location. So I'm going to call this Blender to Mixamo and hit export. We can now open up Mixamo. Once the page is loaded, we can go up to upload character, say character file, and let's look for that export that we just did. Blend it to Maximo and hit open. Once it's all rigged and sorted out, you should see something like this. Sometimes it does keep the materials, sometimes it doesn't, but we don't have to worry about that. As long as you imported a FBX, you should be good. Let's click next, and we're going to assign the chin location, the wrists, elbow, knees, and groin area. We can use this reference on the right to see which one's which. And let's hit next. Now to begin auto rigging, and your avatar should be ready to animate in a bit. And our character should now be rigged. Hit next, and we're now going to look for an animation. So I'm going to choose the look around animation. The red avatar is for your female avatars and the blue one is for your male. So I'm going to be using the look around male version. For interest, we can just turn it down a bit. The trim we're going to set all the way to the left and all the way to the right. Arm space we can pick it up to about 60. This is just because the fabric kind of like does weird stuff around the arms when you animate it, so need a little bit of space there. And we're going to hit mirror so that our first and last frame kind of flow equally between each other. This is going to create around 382 frames, which is quite a lengthy animation, which is great, which is what we need. From here, we're going to click download, leave the settings as is, and choose our file location to download to. Once that's complete, we can now bring it into Blender. So we're going to go up to the top left, say file, import FBX, and let's select the animation, look around, and hit import. We can now go ahead and hide the shoes that we imported as well as the Genesis male. Let's drag and drop this artifact shoe to the collection and hide it from there. Let's rename it to hidden. And now we're going to start working with our animated avatar. You can see when we import it and play through the animation, you can see that the guy is moving around, which is perfect. The first thing you'll notice is that our avatar isn't textured correctly. Because we exported in FBX, we can now go to our materials property and relink all our files. So you'll see that it has 001, which means we already have the face material as well as all these other materials. So we can go down to the browser material link, and we're going to relink the face, lips, as well as the rest of the materials. Our shoes we can keep as is for now. Once we're happy with that, we can hit save and drop it in our folder. The next thing we're going to do is hit the armature layer and then go all the way down to artifact and press shift and click on it. We're now going to export this as an Alembic file. Let's save it into our exports file, and we're going to say look around animation, and we're going to choose our frames. If you recall back in Mixamo it was 382, so we're going to export 382 frames. So your start frame will be 0 and your end frame will be 382. Let's say selected objects and hit export. It will run through all the frames and you should have your animation, which we're going to import into CLO3D now. Now to make our transition from T-pose to animation work swiftly, we're going to click on the armature, go down to your data tab, and we're going to say reset position. This is going to set our avatar into T-pose. We're going to do the same thing, select armature to artifact, and we're going to go to file, export, and this is going to be an OBJ file now. So we can call this look around T-pose, say select it only and hit export. And then we're going to go to pose position and go to our first frame and hit file, export, OBJ, and we're going to call this frame 1. Make sure you do this because this is vital when it comes to animating in CLO3D. We can hit save, and we can now close this and open up CLO3D. Once we've exported our animation, we can open up CLO3D and import our T-pose position. So let's go to our folders and hit T-pose and open. Okay, for this animation, I'm going to be using some of the products off my store. So you can simply just go File, Add, project, and we're gonna add the camo longs. Let's hit open and then add. And then we're gonna add the hoodie as well. So let's go file, project, hoodie, hit add. And then we can hit simulate, just so the textures can all come through and be working. Might just have to fiddle around until you're good. That looks pretty good. Let's just fix the back here. And sure, it looks good. What we're gonna do now is add a ski mask as well. So we can go file, add project ski mask. This isn't available on my store, but it will be available with this creation. So you're welcome to download it and put it on my store, and you'll be able to get that ski mask. And it should just go straight in and simulate over. It will be a bit funny, so you kind of just have to adjust it until it looks good. That looks pretty sweet. And let's fix this hoodie. Let's get this hoodie around. Cool. You obviously don't have to import the ski mask if you don't want to. That looks pretty cool. Okay, from here we're going to change to thick texture just so it looks a little bit better. And we can just start adjusting this some more until we're happy. Okay, so now that that's all set up, if you do want to create your own stuff, I do have a couple process videos where you can check that out, or there are a couple of guys on YouTube that have videos explaining how to make different garments. I'm obviously going to be releasing more in the future, so make sure to stick around for that. But yeah, just so we can get a basic process, I'm just going to do this quickly for you. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is just make sure the bottom of our pants aren't clipping. So let's just bring this up like so. Until we're happy with how everything is. And we can actually go into our 2D pattern window and adjust the leggings or the leg patterns, and we can set the particle distance to about 8. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is just rearrange our patterns in the 2D pattern window just so we can separate them a bit. Let's bring this in, and then we can select the pants and take them to the side. Okay, cool. Let's hit save. So we have our base T-pose, main T-pose, and then we can save it again, but let's call it frame 1. So let's go save as project, main, animation. Just so we have that backup in case anything funny happens. We'll start working off this file now. So from here, let's just carry on adjusting. That looks good. And we don't have to worry about patterns or textures currently because we'll change that all in Blender. So let's go up to our simulation and click on UV editor. We're now going to right click in the UV editor space and say reset to UV arrangement. And now we can just start separating the different patterns into different squares. So the first thing we can do is select everything and scale it down. And then we can now select our hoodie and just bring it into our first box, like so. And we're just going to make this all fit into one box. And then once we're happy with it, we can scale it up again. And we're actually going to try match this pocket, just in case if you want to do overlays, try match this exactly where that is. And that way when you put a graphic on here, it will kind of fold over everything. So we can scale this up again even more, and then let's put this over here. Cool. So we have the hoodie done. Let's do the pants now. We're going to do the same thing with the pants. Just position everything in there, and then we can scale it up. And then for the face mask, we can scale that up as well. Cool. Once you're happy with that, we can hit save, and then we can go back to simulation, make sure everything's good. See, there's a little bit of an ear sticking out here, so let's just adjust that. Also, what we can do to prevent that is select our face mask and set collision thickness to 1.5 and also set the render thickness to 2, and it'll just make the material look a little bit thicker and also prevent any like avatar skin coming through. We can also do the same thing to our hoodie. Select all and let's make it 1, the render thickness to 1. And then also what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this up so that almost falls over itself. Can drag it up like that and hit stop. And then we're going to select both ribbons from the front and back, and we're going to set the weft to about 65. Or we can even go a bit lower. Let's do 50 and hit simulate. There we go. You'll see it'll start to go up, and then we can just let it simulate until it sits in the right spot. Cool. So far I'm liking that. Let's hit save. Now we can begin the animation process. So remember that frame 1 that we exported, we're now going to import that into CLO3D. So the first thing we're going to do is say file, import OBJ, and we're going to hit frame 1, and we're going to set the object type to morph target and layer type to add, and hit OK. This is going to morph our T-pose to our frame 1, which is going to be the start of our animation. If you're not happy with how things are looking here, you can always adjust them. So I'm just going to hit simulate and bring the ski mask back a bit. And then I think everything else looks really good. I'm happy with how things have turned out. And now we can just save it one more time, but we're going to call this main animation start. Now you don't have to do this whole saving thing, but I just like to do it in case for some reason something messes up. So from here, we're going to click on the avatar again and delete it. And we're going to go file, import Alembic. This is going to be the Alembic animation we exported from Blender, which is going to be our entire animation essentially. So let's set load type to add and hit OK. Okay, once that's imported, we can now begin the animation process. So from here, before we start animating it, we're going to go to the UV editor once more, and we're going to say bake textures and export a UV. So we can call this main underscore and hit save. We're going to set it to 8000. It will automatically reset to 7936. We're going to do all tiles because we're doing 3 tiles, and we're only going to do diffuse texture tile. So let's hit save here. And this will give us the UVs for all our garments that we can adjust later on. Let's hit close, and now we can go into our animation tab. So from here, we're going to set that animation to stable and put it to 5. Obviously, the higher you go, the more stable it becomes, but 5 normally looks the most realistic. So from here, we can hit record, and it's going to start recording the animation for our garments. You can see on the bottom left, the remaining time is around 1 minute. Depending on your PC and how many frames there are, it could take longer. But yeah, let's do that, and we can bring it into Blender after this. So once we're happy with our animation, we can hit File, Export, and we're going to say Limbic Ogawa. We're going to call this one Look Around CLO3D, just so we know that it came from CLO3D, and hit Save. Now for export settings, we're going to set it to thick. I know a lot of people do thin, but I prefer the look. Although you do lose your materials, you can always add them back in Blender. So let's set it to thick, entire region, and make sure the rest of the settings are as is, and you can hit OK. Now it might take some time depending on the computer you have. So let's just let it export, and then we can open up Blender and import it back in. So we're going to open up the exact same file that we saved earlier. We can go File, Import, Alembic, and this is going to be the Alembic animation we just exported now. So if we go into Export folder and go CLO3D and Import, we should have an already aligned animation. Now if we drag through here, we can see everything is perfectly aligned and there's no overlapping of the avatar or the garment, which is great. From here, we're going to create the environment that our avatar is going to be in. So I'm going to create a plane by pressing Shift A and scaling it by pressing S. We can go to our front view and say Shift A and add a camera, which we can then move by pressing G and using X, Y, and Z to move along the axes, and then we can use Y to bring it up. Let's go camera, set active camera, and we should get our camera angle. So let's press R and then X to rotate our camera to point down a little bit. And we're just going to bring it up and continue rotating it down. We can see when we go to the middle here that it's not right in the middle, so let's use G again and X to move it along the X axis. We're now going to create the backdrop extension, so we can press edit, and using the edge tool we can press E on our keyboard followed by X to extrude it, and this is just going to bring it up, and then we can click on the edge of our corner and press Ctrl B, and this is just going to create a bevel. Now if we scroll down with our mouse, you'll see that creates some extra lines, so let's just create a couple and left click. When we go back into object mode, we can right click on our plane and say shade smooth, and we should have the result we're going for. Let's go back to the camera and hit preview materials, and that's what we're looking at right now. So from here we are going to create some lights. So let's go to the top view, Shift A, and let's add a light. We can add an area and just bring it up like so. Let's move it around, and then we can create another light by pressing Shift D and then R followed by -90 and X, and then let's bring it back behind our avatar and slightly to the right, and then let's rotate it on the Y axis like so. We're going to go to our light tab and just make it smaller, and then press scale and Y and make it bigger along the Y axis, and then let's bring it back. Okay, the next thing we can do is press Shift D again and R on a keyboard followed by -90 and X, and then we're going to bring this forward and then rotate along the Y axis by 180 degrees, and then bring it down so we have that front light. Let's just make this top light a little bit bigger and bring it up, and let's fill in the back. We can bring it up to around 250, and that should give us a good light there. And then the front light, let's set it to maybe 100 watts, seems pretty good. Just checking this backlight. I think the backlight we can also make it 100. Let's bring this down to 200. Okay. Really like how that's looking so far. The camera is a little bit off, so let's go back to front view and let's bring it back to where it was. I think that's a better spot. Okay, cool. The next thing we're going to do is add our textures, so we can go up to the middle here and say shader editor. Let's click on our garment and go down to the materials tab and say new material and call this main. Okay, from here we're going to add those UVs that we exported, so let's go into our export folder and we're going to go to UVs and let's drag and drop the first one, which ends with 01, and we're just going to relink this, and you'll see why now. So before you relink it, you'll see that it says single image. When you relink it, it'll now say UDIM tiles. This is going to link everything, all of the UVs there, as it automatically does with Blender, which is great. We can drag color to base color, and you'll see now that everything is aligned. Now, for this, we don't want obviously this colorway. So what we're going to do is take these UVs and put them in Photoshop and adjust them, similar to all my other markups. So let's go into Adobe Photoshop, or you can use Photopea. I think it's a free to use browser Photoshop version. It does basically the same thing. So once we've opened up it into Photoshop, we can now add whatever we want. So if you've checked out any of my other tutorials, you can update this. You can drag and drop different colors, create a clipping mask. So for instance, I'm going to make this maybe like a little bit of an eggshell color. Hit OK. And then copy this onto the other two. So let's open up our other two UVs and drop them into Photoshop. And then let's copy and paste this over both of them and right click and say create clipping mask. Now if we hit save here, we can just save it as is, but just as a Photoshop document. So let's do the same to all. Save. And then we can go into Blender again and we're going to relink. So just click the folder and look for PSD1. Say open, and you'll see now that everything updates. So that's pretty much the process on how you're going to update everything. So you can add your own logos, add your own textures, do pretty much whatever you want. And all your stitching is going to be over here. So if you want to change the stitching, so for instance, if I add a little rectangle over here that's black and I hit save, you'll see now when I update this, everything will be updated and the stitching will be black. Okay, so from here, let's add some texturing. So we can go into our textures folder and I'm going to drag and drop this roughness and normal map in. Roughness connects to roughness, quite self-explanatory. And then we're going to press Shift A followed by a normal map. And we're going to add normal to normal and color to color. This is going to be creating our basic texture. You'll see now it's quite big, but we're going to scale it down now. If you press Shift A and type in texture coordinate, followed by value, and then mapping. This will allow us to scale everything down. So let's connect UV to vector. Let's connect the vector to both vectors of the roughness and normal, and then value to scale. It will disappear at first, but that's just because it's set to 0. If we set it to 1, it will come right back. So let's just increase this so that it looks more realistic. I think that looks pretty good. Let's maybe make it like 23. Yeah, I like that. You'll see we have all the stitching showing. It's looking good. Okay, from here, let's just make sure we save this. Okay, before we add branding to our outfits, I'm just going to change the shoe color. So let's set this pink to somewhat of a eggshell color. Let's change the name to egg. And then this dark brown, we can maybe make it a white. And we can let's just adjust the roughness. So let's bring the roughness up. I want it to have like more of a suede look. That looks pretty cool. Okay, from here we can hit File, Save. And now we can go back into Photoshop and add our branding in. So just to show you how to brand it, I have got some branding from Elucid Studios. Check them on Instagram. Really sick brand in South Africa. I've got some of their branding that I'm just going to drag and drop onto the garment and hit Save. And then we're going to do the same thing with the pants. Let's just put this on the front here, maybe around here. Sick. And hit Save. And then for the hoodie, we can place that exact logo. I don't know where. Maybe, yeah, that could look pretty sick. And let's hit Save. Now when we go back into Blender and we relink, you'll see now that everything has rendered out pretty cool. So I think I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. So let's go back into Photoshop and scale this down. Hit Save. And let's actually make this the same color blue, just so it goes pretty hard. Make the ski mask. So let's change the ski mask. And hit Save. And then when we relink, if it doesn't relink, just go to change the preview and you should see it update like that. I know sometimes it's buggy like that. This is still not in the perfect spot, so let's bring it up a bit. It's all about tweaking really. Hit save. We can even take this logo and just select this bit and put it on maybe one of the arms. Scale it up. Hit save. And let's make the color of the lucid on the pants also more of a vibe. Do I like where they are? I think they could go up a bit. So let's bring that up and hit save. And then when we adjust the preview, just like that, looks hard. Okay, last thing I want to do is change the little tick. So let's make that the same color, blue, as the logo. Yeah, I'm really happy with how that's looking. Some other small touches that we can do is make this blue on the pants. So let's go back into the pants and we're just going to create a rectangle. We're just going to create, using the pen tool, we're going to make another shape just to go over those little areas. Make shape, and we can bring this down to the bottom. Then we can go to the other side and make another shape. And once we're happy with that, we can hit save and go back to Blender and switch previews. And we should have the final result. I think I'm really happy with how that looks. So now we can start the rendering process. So from here, if we go to output, make sure your cycles supported and GPU compute. Obviously, if we don't have a GPU, you can select CPU. Max samples is around 128. If you have a more beefier PC, then obviously you can bring it up. If not, I would suggest keeping it around there. Make sure not to have motion blur on. If you do have motion blur on, your render will turn out like this and it'll be like glitchy and very weird, and you don't want that. So don't turn that on. For your output, depending on your resolution, this is for vertical. Obviously you can change it to the opposite for horizontal. This is like Instagram format, so it's quite key. Frame rates 0 to 382, and then if you want to export in video, you can just change it to MPEG video, and then to select your folder, you can go to output, file, and then yeah, let's just put it in renders and call it render 01 and hit accept. We can then go up to the top left and just render one image to make sure that everything is visible. I'm happy with that. I think I should just bring up this light at the top here. So let's go back to the 3D window and press G and just take it up a notch. And then we can hit save and render image just to preview. I think I'm really happy with how that looks. And then let's go and hit render animation. It'll start from frame 1, and once you start rendering, you'll see that it will do frame 1. So once it's done, you'll see it says frame 1. So here is our frame 1 of the render. It'll do frame 2, 3, so on and so forth. And then once you've done that, you can import it into Premiere Pro via sequence of images and then edit it like that. Otherwise, if you just have a video, you can drag and drop it straight in. If you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to drop a like, comment, and sub, and turn the notification bells on. If you need any help with anything, don't forget to join the Discord. This project file is available on my Shopify store, dandedican.com. If you want to purchase any of my other markups, that would be greatly appreciated. Peace.